Nearly 811 million people worldwide are hungry today, and 45 million people are on the edge of famine across 43 countries. How do you feel? How do you make sense of that many people suffering from hunger and famine in the world today?
I don't know if I can make sense of it, Lex. I mean, I think it's deeply disturbing to me that as a global community, we've allowed this number of people to go hungry when the food to feed them exists and the resources to feed them exists. I think the thing that disturbs me most about those figures is that many of those who are starving today or going hungry today are the net result of war and intentional acts by leaders to starve entire populations. And that's the most deeply disturbing part to me. You know your history, and we all know that, deeply embedded in the Geneva Conventions post-World War II, the intent of one of those articles was to ban the use of starvation as a weapon of war because of what Hitler did during World War II. That's been reiterated multiple times over the years in international humanitarian law, including in 2018 because of the Saudi blockade over Yemen. And yet, to this day, starvation as a weapon of war continues to be used in Ethiopia, obviously in Ukraine right now, and in Yemen with the blockade over the country. And that disgusts me, that the law is in place, but it won't be enforced by the international bodies and the nation states that make up the international community.
So when the starvation is a result of human actions, human decisions, that's especially painful to make sense of.
For me, personally, yeah. I think that if you and I, sitting here, didn't eat for 3 days and had to, lay our head on the sidewalk for a couple nights, I think we would take, hunger and homelessness a lot more seriously. And I think for some reason, that's missing at this moment in history, tragically. And I think until that we can generate enough empathy that's immediate for all of us to understand what that means to go hungry, I'm not sure we're going to sort of marshal the global community to solve it.
I did just that, by the way, fasted for 3 days recently. It's fundamentally different, I think, because the thing that would be terrifying to me is not the fasting, but the hopelessness at the end of the fast. Like, I wouldn't know when the next meal is coming.
Yeah.
I always had the freedom to have the meal.
Yeah.
The fear for not just your own ability to eat and survive, but your families. If there's loved ones, that's the other thing I don't have. I'm single.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like the worst suffering is watching somebody you love that you're supposed to be a caretaker of, and you can't take care of them. And if all of that is caused by leaders as a weapon of war, that is especially painful. So how can we help? What are the ways to help? How do we alleviate this suffering?
Well, I think on the humanitarian front, we have to be aggressive and attentive and intervene in significant ways. And I think on the political front, we have to hold players accountable for their actions.
So the leaders that start the wars. So when you say we have to speak up about the decisions and the humans making those decisions that lead to the starvation.
Yeah, for example, let's make it concrete. So, when I don't want to jump ahead, but when I was filming Hunger Ward in Yemen, I met a mother who, when she gave birth, weighed 70 pounds. The mother weighed 70 pounds. And so her daughter was starved in the womb, right? When she was born, she was born into a world with no breast milk, very little formula, right? So she was starved before birth. She was born into a world where she continued to be starved, right? By a mother who herself was starved. I watched that child, her name is Asila, die in front of me, right? Asila had no chance for all those things we hope for a child in this world. She didn't have a chance to grow up. She didn't have a chance to discover love. She didn't have a chance to have a career. She was robbed of all of those things because of the insidious nature of hunger that she was born into. She didn't have to die. She was not starving. Her mother was being starved, right, because of the blockade over the country. Now, who instituted that blockade? MBS in Saudi Arabia, with the reinforcement and sort of tacit approval of the United States, our own government here. And so there are people who are responsible for the starvation of children, and I think we need to hold them accountable. Now, that's incredibly difficult to do, but just because it's difficult doesn't mean it ought not to be done.